Hello, 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 everyone. Mike Arnold here, co-founder, Path Trading Partners, along with Bob Iacchino. Good morning, wavy. Japanese yen collapsing. Well, they're not going to stop it just yet. Happy Wednesday, Connor. Thank you for being here. Good morning, Patrick. Good morning, Anissa. Good morning, Josh. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you. And if you are new here, consider subscribing like a lot of our regulars do so you get updates. If you ring that bell and like some videos if you want some really good market analysis, technical analysis that is, and tune in Tuesday and Thursday afternoons to also hear Bob Iacchino's take on the markets. So, where are we sitting this morning? Not much out. I mean, the mortgage stuff was not a big surprise. And, with rates being higher, applications being down, housing industry slowing down. Only thing is wholesale inventory is coming out in about 55 minutes. And then if you are trading crude or crude related instruments in the stock market, that is coming out at 9:30 Central Time. And I am going to keep an eye at noon Central on the 10-year note auction. So, FOMC, we're still at the same rate hike. Now, remember, that is next Wednesday, and we are still in negative gamma, so we can still see increased volatility. All right. Interesting. The only thing I was really keeping an eye on this morning was Campbell's. So they actually beat. Why was I keeping an eye on Campbell's? Campbell's had a percent beat buy a couple days ago. Glancing at the long term, this is why I like to have a long term system I could glance at. Still in buy mode. And if you notice here, why am I starting off with Campbell's? Just because don't discount what you might consider boring stocks. Cycles turning up again. Not investment advice, cannot give that. So do your own research and apply your own systematic metrics because any trade or investment can turn around and stop you out. But cycles on the daily turning up. See cycles holding the weekly rotation zone, cycles on the weekly about to turn up. But what's most important, besides that little front run aggressive percent beat buy signal, is we have a bigger double that does not have to trigger yet. So I am keeping an eye on this bigger double for a return to higher prices. And from a fundamental standpoint, this value stock is not at insane valuations. That's why I'm pointing this out, not to specifically talk about one specific stock or trade, but these are the kind of things you might be looking for, especially, in more challenging conditions where it's a decent value. Don't discount it because it's Campbell's soup. Return to prior resistance becoming major support, and we have a decent probability pattern setting up. So, and earnings are now out of the way with a beat. Now, could it fill the gap first? Yeah. Does it have to trigger that double? No. But this is where you want to include a lot of stocks. I know a lot of people still want to focus on, the past high flyers. Well, let's just go always back to the mega caps we're used to. But there's a lot of other potential stocks that warrant investigation. So please don't rule them out. Just wanted to touch base on that. Little consolidation going on right now. Let's see. Davey, good morning. Rumors of Netflix possibly buying Roku, which I don't get at all. I don't know what Roku would bring them. I mean, Netflix is already on Roku unless they want to get into the hardware business for some reason, but that's another cash intensive thing. So I don't know if that's just a rumor. I don't know what's going to happen. I'd be more interested in somebody buying Netflix. Hello, Dr. Michael. Good morning, Options 22. Good morning, Christoph. Good morning, Ted. All right. So what are we watching for? Very quiet overnight session. Slight little pullback after that ramp. You see here the key 50% harmonic, which we stopped at. Had the little pullback and then blasted through yesterday, pulling back in a little flag pattern against that 50% harmonic. So I'm watching to really make sure this channel holds on the open. It does still because we are in a bigger double bottom pattern and never triggered the double top, and the double top still is roughly in play. I'm watching for the breakout. The breakout little play. especially getting above about 41.50, 41.51, 41.52, this area right in here. That's what I'll be watching for on the open. Keep in mind, we could be choppy. We could be choppy and back and forth trading for the next couple days until the big inflation numbers come out on Friday. All right. So means unless even with some momentum bars, I'm still watching for the back and forth price action with a slight upwards bias. Where do I get concerned? Really, if we start breaking back down below the major support level from yesterday, 41.18. We start getting some, then you're back to potentially retesting the lows. But as long as that area holds, then I got to stick with at least the short-term choppy to upwards bias. You still see cycles trying to get to now this sideways price action. Remember, you can have two kinds of corrections. A pullback, and I'm talking for we're at a possibly short-term bottom. So that would be a pullback or a sideways correction. This is a textbook sideways correction. If I take off all the other lines, you see it right here. Bottoming pattern, move up, getting overbought, okay? So coming out overbought, cycles coming down and trying to get to a bottom within the weekly cycles, still moving up and not yet topping and rolling over. Is this a long-term bottom? No, this is a short-term bottom, and we're still having that upwards bias. That's why I just want to sort of get a teaching moment in here, because you know, people, you got to look at all your different stuff and not get too biased one way or another and trust the probabilities. And the probabilities are still for a short-term up move. Could CPI number come out Friday and we just tank? Absolutely. That's why patterns are not 100%. And if anybody tells you they have a 100% trading system or even like a 98, 99, they are full of crap. Unless they are selling way out of the money options. But then when it does crap out, and I've seen some 90% way out of the money option systems, but when it is wrong, it takes a massive hit. I'm talking a massive hit. So you got to keep that in mind too. Christoph, I agree with you 100%, Mike, on the value stock. Still, Uber also triggered a double bottom yesterday. Maybe we'll glance at that this afternoon. Hey, Waka Waka. Good morning, Lauren. Yen and trying to go to the moon. Yes, the yen is trying to go to the moon. Rocket ship has left on an Elon Starship. Are you guys just trying to like troll me with Elon stuff? Huh? Is that what's going on? I mean, everything's Elon now. Everything's Elon. And here's what everybody's talking about. In case you're unaware, it's now through the next harmonic. You see that little double top pattern coming down, first and second targets hit. Within the context, just want to point this out. Look, we got to very overbought conditions. Cycles pinned at the top, coming back down, little double triggered, but taking it back to that weekly rotation zone. And what did we get? The weekly rotation back up through the harmonic. So now the next little pause area, this is going to give me the next target, 136.055. Again, and here's where the bigger context is. And I only have data on this platform back to 2002. But I mean, of course, the yen's been trading a lot longer than that. There are other stopping points, but they're hard to find unless you don't have the major farther back data, which I do not on this platform, and can't bring up my trading platform right now to show you everything else. So make sure, where did my there they are. So, and then the next major target. Now, how did I get this? Let me show you real quick. Let me, especially for the new people, because there's just not a ton of stuff we need to cover at the moment. But I went on the monthly chart from this major low back in 11 to this major pausing bar high in 15, because you see the next major area would be if it just keeps on trucking, we already have an area 138.43. Now, if you have farther data going back, you can fine tune that with major stopping points on a monthly basis. All right, you got that out of the way too. Nasdaq. Let's see what everybody's saying. Can you look at? Let's see. Hold on, let's see where I am. What do you think about Nat Gas breaking out with crude? I've been watching the Nat Gas because we had that little minor, and again, Nat Gas is strong. Little minor double top, only coming back to the first thing. So again, I've talked about this before. I used to talk about it as a test all the time. Do I use these to trade against strong trends? No, I watch for the target areas to find potential reversals. Okay, because Nat Gas is in, and you can't, I would not recommend trading like a 1 hour or 15-minute double top against a trend like this. By the way, this double's probably going to be off the table. That never even came down close to triggering. Nat Gas, there can still be a push higher. Definitely a push higher with cycles. Could be getting to the topping area, but this is nothing until I had a major topping pattern would stand behind. I'd just be trailing out the stop. I'm focusing on 973, and then if you want the next targets, we're coming up to this major topping area. Just remember 973. I'm giving you the next area, and then hold on one second. Just want to see where the next cluster is. Nothing going on there. Don't have a decent cluster just yet, but next area would be about 1020 to about 1043. We'll have to look to fine tune that. Again, I would not trade against this trend. I'd just be using things to trail a stop. Okay, this is just trailing stop mode. And remember, when we do correct, like the last correction was just back to the weekly rotation zone. Now I'm going to start watching. Cycles are at the top, getting to the top, but not yet rolling over for both the daily and the weekly. So what does that mean? When I start to see things roll over, we are getting overbought, and we get against some areas. I will watch for potential shorter term topping patterns, and what I just talked about. We could get cycles rolling over. Does that mean you necessarily get a big pullback? No, we have a lot of key support in here, so we could have a minor pullback with sideways price action. Other than that, I would not be getting super aggressively long here unless it was a short-term duration trade. NASDAQ, again, sideways correction. You see here, sort of boring price action. Let's pull back on this information. We do have this interesting little double top pattern. If it does break down, I'd at least need a longer term close, at least a 1 hour close. And then those targets would be 12,566 and then 12,537, 12,508. And I'd be focusing on the first two targets. But I wouldn't just trade that based off this price action today on a break, unless you got some momentum break, a retest, and then a rollover play. But it is that this is a valid potential double top within a consolidation area. To the upside, watching about 12,700 if we do get momentum, but it's sort of in this consolidation range right now. Overall, same thing as I talked about before. We have this double pattern, and still it has not hit that first target area. So still watching for that upside price action, especially with the 50%. We would be shocked, though, if we hit it in the next, especially today. I'm not even focused on that. It'd have to get out of this range. So it's more just waiting. If there's no great trades, it sit on hands. Dow. Again, there's also this little flag pullback pattern. So that's what I'm going to be watching here. If we break down, first area of support is this 32,940, 950 area, 32,940 area. And remember, you can always just look at your harmonics. And then the next area I'd be watching for the major support is in 32,900 to about 32,823. Don't want to see 32,823 broken. Russell holding up really nicely at the first target. So this is actually, if we do get a break above about 1918, going to really be focusing on the next couple days for this 1949 area. Little decent flag pattern there. The major support coming in about back at 1900. DAX, come on, DAX. DAX getting into a slight sloppy pattern. I'm watching if it does pull back more, which I doubt it hit this level today, but 14,325 to about 14,285 is my key support. Again, statistically, it still does favor a hitting this 14,730 area, which we just missed the other day. Crude also basing. Now we do have this bigger double is still in play just because this is still the right-hand side. This did not pull down far enough. This is still considered one side of this bigger. But within that, you do have a double within a double. And we finally did hit the next harmonic area. So I'm really focused on this short-term double. Why? Because if crude did pull back, got that close below 117.14, you could easily pull back to this prior breakout area with the rising rotation zone. And we just did bounce off that next harmonic, which was this green area. Remember, we have that cluster to 75% retracement harmonic and the projection harmonic right here, and we've got that little potential double. So if you're trading this from the long side, that would be a great area to lock in some profits potentially for the little pullback play. And then theoretically, that pullback play, you could get a little bounce here, and then it could trigger into a bigger pullback play. So I am keeping a close eye with this. Now we start getting momentum back around above this 120, 120 area. Then as statistically, as I've talked about, we still favor a test of 125.80 to 125.90. Notes. Again, pausing at this 87.5 inside bar so far, but I'm watching for anywhere down in here. We do have a potential double bottom, long way off from triggering, but I'm really focused on, that's why I'm watching the 10-year auction today. Cycles on the daily basis trying to turn up, cycles on the weekly turning down. So it might be a longer little bottoming pattern down here before we can really get a solid bottom in place. We'll just have to see if it invalidates the double. But pretty much if we do break below yesterday's low, then I'm focusing on a short-term bias towards the low back from the 9th of May. Dollar index, still this double did trigger. I know it's hard to see. This did just qualify as a double. And it's a little sloppy, but it cannot get the closing basis. I need it to trigger on the closing basis before I follow through with the higher price actions. The VIX up slightly, but gonna still be watching. Now, if we start getting back above 25.50, then we could just be, then I'm going to watch for a potentially more of a breakdown within consolidation. This doesn't concern me yet with that little gap up. Can I look at the CAD futures? Yes, I can. Oh, I hate that. It does it with the interval. Hold on. I'll just do this. Where's, oh. So CAD futures, I mean, it's still, what was interesting is generally when this happens in a return, it's generally this, that's almost it could not get to the target. I can tell you right now, this horizontal channel breakout. So I'd be watching definitely for a retest of a 124.80 area and then a potential breakdown play. Other than that, this is very key, 124.80. Don't have any this is just a mess right here. The only thing that would be to change my mind in the short term would be a move back above 126. Other than that, I'm watching for a retest of this key support area. Yeah, I'm not even going to talk about Roku. We can glance at the shares of somebody. Oh boy, you guys are Dr. Michael. Thank you. Uh, where are we sitting? Where are we sitting? Rip Fed peak inflation narrative best out of three. You guys, you guys are really, really going to town. Sorry, I forgot to switch the camera when I was looking at all my other screens. Where do we sit? Just looking. We don't need to cover the Turkey in here. 10-year yields going up. Yeah, the yields are going up with the. We can look at the yields too with the notes going back down. Here's your yields. And your yields have not yet qualified for a potential double top. So I'm expecting still yields to push higher with the notes pushing lower. And then we could get a potential double top. You see here coming off of this harmonic coming back down. Yields to within the weekly rotation zone and rotating back up. Still watching for a return at least above the 75% harmonic to get a potential double top in there. And then that could be a longer term play back down for yields. Don't rule it out just because it doesn't necessarily fit the narrative. And keeping an eye still on this with the 10-2 if it were to break down below this about 167 basis points for a return back to the zero area with a little flag pattern in here. Where do I have to do? What do I have to do? I still have to look at Tesla. Looks like a slight gap up. Major target if it on a breakout move. If we get some move on in the NASDAQ would be about 750, 751. With the daily rotation zone, minor target is about 733. The breakdown area, again, until it can't get super bearish with the market still holding up, unless on Tesla specifically, unless we got to close below 685. All right. Tesla 60 minutes inverse head and shoulders. No. No, way, you don't even have a no, way too sloppy. You still have the gap play to the upside. That's your bullish play. So doing the harmonics, you see, you can start watching if it gets above 733, which I already listed on the longer term chart. You start getting above here, the 50% level. Really focus on the 62.5. Then you get that move above 62.5. Then that's the gap fill play. Why do I say focus on that 62.5? Not only is it the part of the gap fill strategy, you have this key spike high, and you see how the 50 is this spike high. So there could be a little front run play if we got some momentum going on, and then if it does close above the 62.5, roll it into the gap fill. Other than that, this is not a inverse head and shoulders. That's your play to the upside. To the downside, the little warning play you see here, this is at 700. You start breaking below 700 with momentum. Then I'd be targeting the 62.5 at 685. And that's not just for today. That can be for the next couple days, unless we make a new major key high or swing low. Oh, the only stuff I saw was they're going to be buying more batteries from BYD. So, that's where we sit. Nothing else has changed. I mean, for the people who, I'm going to wrap this up because we're 2 minutes open. For the Qs, nothing else has really changed with that from the analysis for the other day. We did not, on the closing basis, trigger this little double top. And I already talked about that yesterday. So I'm still watching, especially for the Qs, to eventually get to targeting this 317.50. With that, all right. Thank you. Thanks, Waka Waka. Thanks, everybody, for being here. And I hope you all have a wonderful trading day. Remember, there's not a lot unless something breaks. Uh, Unless something else breaks out or there's some major news event, there's not a lot of market moving stuff coming out. So just be careful. And if you don't have good setups, don't force the trades over the next couple days. I will be back this afternoon with the wrap up unless something major happens. Thank you, Leopard. Thank you, Anisha. Thank you, Raj. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Dr. Michael. Thank you, everyone else. Davey, Waka Waka, and everybody else who tunes in. Raj, Lauren, Ted. All right. Looks like here's the open. So I will chat with everyone later. Bye for now.